All right, we're live. We're live. We're live. We're up and cooking. Ah. Yeah. Let me know you're here with a comment. They sometimes tell me so and so joined, but not always. So good to see who's there. Hello. Hello, Donna. Hello, Magical Donna. Always happy when you're here, Donna. Brilliant. Donna is here. Yes. Problem with that is, Donna, if you're here, that means you're not all there. My corny joke for the morning. Say that when I was a kid. A little kid asked people, "Are you here?" And I said, "Well, yeah, of course I'm here." "Oh, well, that means you're not all there." But at that point, at least I should say at that time, being not all there was a common expression. IKR. I don't know what IKR is. Uh, hmm, let's see. Can't think what IKR could mean. I can make up some fun things, but brilliant, brilliant. Well, this kind of. Oh, I know, right? Yeah, exactly. Brilliant. Yeah, we're kind of foolish and silly when we were young. I love it. I still enjoy the silly things from back then. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I saw, in adults especially, how they would do the most preposterously foolish, idiotic things for no reason except that, well, it's kind of what they should do. It's what adults do. Man, and I just like, there was just like the absolute ridiculousness of what they did just blew my mind. Just completely was crazy. And I vowed, I said, nope, never. Never ever will I become that kind of an adult. Never, ever, ever. And I was quite sincere in my vow, and I feel very pleased to say, very happy that I never ever became that either. I never ever will either. If anybody sees me behaving in that way, feel free to give me a smack. You're more than welcome. So this is interesting. I noticed that on the when nobody's with me on Zoom, the camera is very zoomed in for some reason. I don't know. Maybe that's why it's called Zoom. More corny humor. I don't know. It's very strange. I'm just gonna chat a little bit, Donna. Even though it's a one-way chat, um, just give it 5 minutes. People to join. That's the problem with Facebook Lives, is that they come on, and then unless you've kind of clicked on the reminder button, which is useful, but I don't know, I don't remember what kind of a reminder it sent me. Although I wasn't really looking at Facebook. Um, but unless you make some kind of a reminder, typically it pops up in your notifications, and you see, oh, so and so has gone live. but then they've already started, and you inevitably get there late. Hello, Mary. Brilliant, brilliant. Um, yeah, I'm glad you're here, Mary. Excellent. I was just saying about the notifications. In terms of going live, you always seem to get them a little after the fact. See, I don't have to worry about my camera because Cher's joined me. Brilliant. Cher and just Cher. No one else, just Cher. I love it. I love it. Brilliant, Cher. I was just saying that I'm just kind of, in the beginning of these lives, I just kind of chit chat and kind of waste time because just to give it 5-10 minutes for people to join, because it's you never get there in the beginning, and it's always like I must start, and it's just the way Facebook notifies you on these, that even if you click the get reminder thing, it doesn't quite give you a nice reminder. I'm looking through my notifications here, and I don't even see a notification from them to say that I've gone live.
Yeah, I don't have a reminder on it. I was just watching the
Right.
time. So
But I mean, on the post that I made in the group, I that post, there's a get reminder little button, and you clicked on the get reminder as well.
Yep.
See, that's what I'm saying. It says get reminder, and it doesn't send you a reminder. It's like, what the hell, Facebook?
Yeah, it didn't send me one at all.
Yeah, very peculiar.
I was just watching the time on it.
That's Facebook being a bit slack there. I'll have to have a chat with Mark. That will not do, Mark. That will not do. Yeah, I wrote him an open letter once, actually. He made a post. He does them every year, I think, New Year resolution for the company and where they're going and what they're doing. And that particular year, this is quite a few years back now already, he said he doesn't have anything specific, and he was kind of open to what to do. And I said, that was the letter that I wrote in response to that. Was about ethics. I said, you want to really do something for your company and do something huge, make ethics first and foremost. Make ethics the big deal about your company. I said, you're welcome to use the hashtag ethics first. Anyway, and this was before their troubles, and they was called before Congress and all that stuff. And, all the trouble they got into with the false advertising and, people getting involved in politics, all that stuff.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
People basically selling out the company for money. And, and if it had actually taken that advice and made ethics first, it would have solved all that problem. Well, anyway, it's still there for you, Mark. You can still use it. It applies, of course, to us personally as well.
Yeah.
But certainly and can you imagine working in a company where from the top down, it's ethics first. So that's it. That's the first and foremost thing, ethics. And you come to work and it's like, man, we are being ethical in what we are doing. Everybody's like this, man, they're excited about ethics. And there's that honor and the integrity and the nobility of doing things that are ethical. And man, wouldn't you want to just enjoy working at a company like that? Wouldn't that be huge?
Yeah,
and then too, if you're kind of a squirrely person, just into sales and status and all of this nonsense, that's not so much the company for me. I'm not going to fit there, because now that's not the premium. You're doing things because they're right, and of course, those relationships. Yes, there might be occasions where the company will make slightly less money, but on the whole, on the average, when you've got happy, committed employees that care about what you're doing and that are invested in what you're doing, and they see that what you're doing is ethical, which means it's honorable and it's noble and it's sensible and that's good. And, certainly Facebook is a product especially the original vision with Facebook. It was really, the idea was to make a world community. And it's a very noble ideal. It's really quite brilliant. And it does do that. Yes. Of course, like anything, it can be misused and people get silly and all that. But again, imagine now if this company ethic of ethics first had permeated, and you see this on Facebook, it would have changed just the way you use Facebook. because it would be this idea of ethics. And of course, when he makes his posts and they put out notices, and this is always going to be part of their communications. So just them being Facebook with this idea would change so much in the world. Anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And again, people think ethics it's there's a somewhat of a potentially negative connection to, yes, corporate greed. It would just take that right out of the picture. Exactly.
Yeah.
But a lot of people think ethics is like, oh, it's a pain in the ass to be ethical, and it's difficult. No, it isn't. Not at all. It's a joy, because you free up your soul. And okay, soul might be a heavy word, but you could say your spirit or your psychology, but it's liberating, because when you do things that are ethical in yourself, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
man, now you just, okay, I feel right, I feel good, I got no burden, I got no baggage. Those shortcuts, you think it's a shortcut now, but always you pay for it later. So it doesn't
Yes.
help.
Yes.
Um, and the funny thing is, Mary, that's the peculiar thing with the corporate greed. It's actually counterproductive. It actually, in this case, look, when that whole thing came out, where people were like selling the advertising and doing stuff that was a bit squirrely and all that, man, it just, it affected the whole industry, the business, the perception of Facebook, and it ended up costing them more in the end. So it doesn't really work. There's one little extra problem that goes involved with this, by the way. That's sort of unusual. Just a little sort of deeper discernment on this, and
Uh-huh.
that's the way companies are set up. For instance, him as the CEO of Facebook, he has a legal fiduciary responsibility to make money for his shareholders. So he has to do things where it's money first. It's a legal obligation.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
so even, okay, ethical isn't illegal, right? And there's a big gap, I mean, between what is ethical and what's legal. There's a big gray area, right? And,
Right.
and where it becomes illegal, I should say. And so there's a big gap there. You can do many things that are quite legal, but aren't exactly ethical, like the things they did when they came to selling, for instance, the advertising to the Russians. Yes, they knew it wasn't quite as right and squirrely, and yes, they, even in that case, they may sort of, maybe it wasn't really a legal issue, but well, they knew. But hey, it made money, and who are we together? They're giving us money, we'll put the adverts up. Doesn't matter
Right.
that the adverts are all lies and bullshit and all that. So it wasn't illegal, but in a technical sense, the officers of the corporation have a legal responsibility to take that money.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that peculiar?
Yes.
So but there are different types of corporations. Like you can have a benefit corporation, which the mandate of your corporation says we are going to do good in some ways. They're called B Corps, for benefit corporation, and
Yeah.
that's kind of starting to be a change where that problem of the fiduciary's responsibility, where it makes people legal to do things that aren't necessarily ethical. That is, if that were to change, and all, it's, you want to be a corporation, you have to have some kind of benefit, and you can't, your corporate greed now actually gets taken out of the picture, and it changes the whole world right there.
Well, I worked for remember I was telling you that I did paralegal work
Yeah, yeah.
years back. The last attorney that I worked for, I quit. And I
Ah,
quit because there was a here in our state, there was a murder trial that was going on, and the defendant, his confession was locked away in the safe, and his confession was that he had done it. And
ah,
I mean, it was a handwritten out confession. Um, and I asked the attorney, I was shocked. I'm like, okay, so you know what he did, and he's
ah,
admitted it, but yet you are going to defend him and say that he's innocent, and you're going to
ah,
lie about this.
ah,
And they said, well, hey, he's paying us to do this.
ah, ah. Again, see, ethics first, yeah.
Yeah, so I couldn't do it. I had to leave,
Right, right.
Um,
Yeah, good for you. Good for you. Ethics first. Yay.
I was horrified, and I've
Yeah,
never forgotten that. Um,
brilliant, brilliant.
and I don't even remember what the outcome was, but so
Yeah, that's good. It doesn't matter. You did what was ethical in terms of what you could do. It
yes,
was out of your hands, really, in that situation. But yeah,
yeah,
so it
yeah,
didn't matter. You just.
it was.
But it brings up a good point. Hello, Rachel. Hello, hello, hello.
Alrighty.
So in that situation, it brings up kind of an interesting point, just sort of a point of impeccability and discernment and a mechanism and a technique that's very powerful. Sometimes we have to believe, and okay, it's have to with a bit of quotation marks on it. But in this case, you have to believe it turned out good.
Yeah.
Right, that
Yeah.
justice worked its way in some weird way. Whether or not it's true or not doesn't matter. You choose to believe it, and in that sense, it's a have to believe because it works for you. So just to put yourself at ease, say, well, I have to believe it worked out good, and there you go. So that's it,
Yeah.
and then you let it go. So there's all sorts of magic out in the world, and whichever way the case works, you have to believe it worked out good. So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, even with the cockeyed system. All right. So on our chapter here, we'll get going.
Okay.
Chapter 7, comparison and hierarchy. In a little joke here, you guys can read. I don't know, if I read the jokes, they don't seem nearly as funny. I don't know, maybe it's just my delivery. I don't know. But anyway, well, maybe to me. But well, anyway, so I like the little jokes because they lighten things up a little bit here. So it actually was very difficult making these jokes, by the way. I got to tell you, it was not easy in the least. All right.
You
So
wrote all those?
no. In some of them, in conjunction with the
Oh,
artist, he
okay.
was also a humorist. So he read the text and then he put them together. So and then we kind of tweaked and filtered them. But since that was his thing already, and it's he's doing the cartooning as well, and he makes jokes. So it was very hard to find somebody who could do both. There's many people who draw the cartoons. Um, Andy Kaufman is his name, but there's very few who could actually write something humorous as well. So that was difficult to find, and also I did search the internet for cartoons, but inevitably they were either political or they were very sensitive to find ones that don't touch buttons, that to add a neutrality to them.
Right.
It was very, very difficult. So it was really amazing how difficult it was to make the cartoons. But he was looking for, like, this is comparison and hierarchy. So it's obviously
Mm-hmm.
this is a joke totally right all about hierarchy, and that was tricky as well. Because the subject matter, it's very sober, the subject matter, so we wanted to lighten things up a little bit with the cartoons, so it
Yes.
was important to us.
Right. I've already seen group dynamics. So.
There you go. Exactly. Just make sure adjusting my screen here. There we go. Mr. A likes full coverage. There we go. All right. So better than, and the quotation to start this is: the bubble of the relativity mindset believes it can make an actual negative situation appear positive by comparison. Huh. I'm going to read that again. The bubble of the relativity mindset believes it can make an actual negative situation appear positive by comparison. Huh. All right. I like that. Gosh, I'd forgotten that. That's really cool. What's comparison and a hierarchy about? The comparative mindset and the superiority paradigm. Everything in the bullshit psychology is shaped by these two concepts. How they compare relatively is of supreme importance to the bullshitter, especially so for the BMN. They have no concern with acquiring absolute value. It matters only where they are in the hierarchy. Better than and relative status is important, not being good for its own sake. The value of goodness lies only in expediency. This obsession with relative value is what leads them to the manipulations, put downs, and pull downs. They like to think they're the best, but they know on an objective basis this is absurd. So they settle for being the local best, which usually means that they find somebody to dominate in some way. It's so utterly pathetic, but it's a reality. Their lives are made miserable by this constant comparing, by their preoccupation with hierarchy. They just can't enjoy themselves, being themselves. These self evaluations are always relative to others, never absolute to their own standards and goals. Relative objectives and values are problematic. The bullshitter can only ever be as good as who they compare themselves to. When the self is fake, what gets compared? It's why independence of being is so critical. Otherwise, one ends up a slave of comparison. And that's the big point right here. That's the huge point. Yes, we see people that in this, hierarchy mindset comparison, and they don't care if they are actually good. They just want to be relatively better than somebody. As long as I'm not at the bottom of the pile, it doesn't matter. And it can be a shit pile, but if I'm just not at the very bottom, then I can pretend that I have some value and superiority. And they don't care that they live on a shit pile. As long as it's halfway up the shit pile or some way not at the bottom, that's it. And the
Mm-hmm.
ideal for them is to be king of the shit pile. But hey, dude, you're still living in a shit pile. They don't get it anyway.
Okay.
But the point here is, it's why independence of being is so critical. If we're in that mindset, even if we are not being negative and pulling others down, but if we compare to others, it's a relative deal. It's not absolute. So even if we're in a positive comparative hierarchy, which happens sometimes, okay, you're doing your wonderful stuff and I try and do a little bit. Okay, that's good, but still, how do we know that there's absolute value in this? It might just be relatively better. So, okay, and I've seen people play games with children and they win the games and then they feel all wonderful. All right, the kid enjoys the game too. But you didn't really win, or you weren't really, there was no accomplishment in what you're doing. It doesn't take much skill in what you're doing. You see my point? So
Mm-hmm.
they feel all good about themselves. I won, I won. But what did you really win? Nothing. So there's no independence of being. So we get into winning in a little bit later on. It might even be in this chapter, I think, in terms of, what we call stupid winning, where people get all hung up with winning and they don't realize that's not, it's not where it's at. It's independence of being. When you have your own independence of being, you don't care what doesn't matter. You happy with you where you are at. And since we started this whole thing talking about ethics, your independence of being satisfies your deepest ethics, your conscience, your rightness of being. And that's it. You've made a balance in terms of effort reward, and life is easy now. Now you can feel happy. You don't have to be perfect or fantastic. If you're at the spot in your life where the effort is worth the reward, perfect. That's it. That's all you need. You found your spot. So we can get to places of being that are really good and joyful and happy. In other words, independence of being, very easily. It's not as difficult as people think. All right, so the next quote here: decency isn't necessarily innate. As a consequence, some end up enjoying being negative, a result of the necessity for gross ego to make the constant effort of maintaining the delusion of superiority. It's easier to pull down others than it is to raise the self. So, yeah, a lot of this mindset that it's built on this. It's like a quick and easy shortcut mindset. But also a lot of it just comes from legacy stuff that we have to understand. The brainstem, the primitive mind is still in us. So we all have this in us, all of this nonsense. And that's one of the main points of the book too. It's about the self-awareness, and for us to see through excess and exaggeration elsewhere, to see that this is also in us. So
Yes.
all of this hierarchy and superiority mindset, that's right there in the brainstem. It's literally built into us, and it's a separate little brain. And yes, every now and then it will rear up itself and try and make influence. So we just have to be aware of that.
Mm-hmm.
This brings up a really powerful point that's come up lately in terms of how we feel and how we think, and our thoughts and emotions aren't necessarily our own. And I think we have to really realize that. For instance, the stuff that comes from the brainstem, it literally is a little separate brain, and we have a whole bunch of different brains, and they keep upgrading and evolving. But the thoughts that come from that particular brain, we kind of long since left them alone and behind. But we don't need to identify with them come up. So good people, they when that stuff comes up, they feel bad. Yes, but I'm not growing. I'm not evolving. I'm thinking all this terrible shit. I'm feeling stuff, and yes, okay, there is this stuff in you, and it is a part of you. But it's a part of you. You don't have to identify with that. It's just a little bitty part. It's not the real you. So we have to
Mm-hmm.
really set this aside and decide for ourselves. Am I going to accept this crap that's coming up inside me or not? No, yes. And so that's we constantly get to face those choices. And there's a kind of a logic for it. Because when we do, and the stuff comes up inside us, and we deliberately choose between that crap of the old, the primitive brain, the reptile brain, or our new ethics, our new nobility, our new impeccability and sensibility, all the stuff. When we deliberately choose, that's the point right there. That's the magic, that deliberate choosing, because that is you being real. And that's a free choice because these things are coming from inside you. And you now get to choose. And when we choose freely, deliberately like that, that's when we make it real. Yes, a reminder to support and hold one another up. Yes, Mary. Yes, yes, yes. To remind each other sometimes. Yes, okay. But hey, we can't be telling each other either because we can't take away that free choice. So, so we can just share our own stuff, and in that sense, we can just that reminder of awareness, and also just you being you in your own independence of being. That's enough, because as we like to say so often, awareness is contagious. It's very powerful. It's a very, very powerful point to understand. Awareness is contagious. So,
Mm-hmm.
in the same ways we pass on negativity, we can pass on positivity. We don't have to say be positive. Just be positive in yourself, and that will automatically affect things around you. And then you give others the freedom to choose whether they wish to be positive or not. And that's the key. If we remove or take away that freedom of choice, then we kind of stealing something very profound for somebody, because it's when you freely choose between the positive and the negative. Okay, I've got your example of positive to choose from, and I got the negative shit coming up all around me or wherever. But that free choice, that's what gives the choice power, right? So, yeah, it's very, very, very powerful thing. So dominance, kind of almost not too keen to read the whole thing on dominance. We kind of get the idea of dominance. I'm just going to skip some of this. Yeah, I want to get to some other parts. This is a long chapter, if I remember, but yeah. Um, Primitive psychology. That's what we've been talking about now. There's primitive psychology. So if we look at the animal kingdom, as it's saying here, we see these same behaviors of dominance and bullying and valuation placed on physical prowess and appearance. Uh, and we look a little, the logic of value in the primitive perspective is all superficial. Deeper values like honesty, sensibility, integrity, strategy, and thinking aren't valued. Dominance is purely based on either being bigger or more aggressive. When those aren't options, the bullshitter relies on looking the part, pretending to have the goods. So this is where we get the value of bullshit, that you don't actually have to be something. You can just appear to be so, and well, that will fool others that have a limited mindset. And it works. There's a lot of that in the animal kingdom. But hey, we need to evolve. We need to evolve. So so here's a kind of an interesting point here. When bullshitters find themselves in positions of authority, their main commandment is always, thou shalt not question. They don't want exposure. They want anything that's deep. It's all shallow and superficial. The comparative mindset and lack of self-honesty truly limits truly relating. Yeah. So when you have that comparative mindset, it makes for impossible relationships. So this is kind of a big point. Relationships have been coming up. Yeah, Mary, unrelenting positivity, absolutely. Relationships have come up very powerfully lately, and that's kind of one of the death knells of relationships is the comparative mindset. And here's a big problem with the comparative mindset. So I just want to scroll down a little bit because I think it's actually in the pecking order hierarchy has no ethics. Yep, exactly. Exactly. None whatsoever. It's a whole bullying thing. A chicken mindset in a human is an unspeakable tragedy. Yes, yes, absolutely. It's huge. All right, so I want to speak about like comparative mindset and its downsides, especially in relationships. Um, that when we get stuck in this comparing idea, we don't really realize that we can celebrate difference and that we can enjoy others because they are different. And when we make that shift, man, now you're in a relationship, and with ever, it doesn't matter, with your boss, with just people in general, with the world, hey, I don't care what it is. But when we say, hey, I celebrate and honor you for where you're at, man, you like have everything, for argument's sake, right? And you're smart, you're successful, you're beautiful, you're happy all the time. I can only be happy for you because I'm not comparing. Say, man, that's fantastic. That's brilliant. Wow, okay, you make a lot of effort to be where you're at. Okay, maybe you also got lucky. Fantastic. I love it for you. All right. Or maybe I have not. Okay, it doesn't matter. Because I'm not in that comparative mindset, I just enjoy you. And it's fantastic. Okay, that's not me. That's you. You're lucky or you're fantastic or you work. I don't care. It doesn't matter. I'm happy for you. And I don't feel bad because, well, you're so fantastic and look at me. I don't have that. I'm not beautiful. I'm not smart. I'm not successful. I'm not blah, blah, blah. And now you feel shit by comparison. Now, how crazy is that if we really think about it? Haven't you just lost out enjoying something and getting the value of seeing them and learning from them and seeing whatever, whether they got it through luck or work or effort, it doesn't matter. You're losing out. You just end up feeling shit by comparison for no good reason whatsoever. Instead of celebrating the difference, say, man, I'm pleased people like this exist in the world. They make the world a better place. Fantastic. So we need to celebrate difference. And it doesn't, say, okay, now you think it's like a better, worse thing. Again, comparative. If you throw even that out and you just say, well, they are what they are, I am what I am, and that's it. I'm on my path, they're on their path. Who knows where we started and how things happen in the world? Maybe that person's been living literally, a billion lifetimes, and I'm only on a couple of 100,000. All right, I got a ways to go. Again, if we get out of this comparative mindset, all that stuff becomes stupid and just a waste of time. Rather just enjoy and take that energy and enjoy and celebrate. Oh, man, that's great. That's cool. I enjoy you. You're fantastic. I enjoy you. I love you. It's cool. That's awesome. And I am what I am. I like what I am too. So life is easy. It's just so powerful to unhook from the comparative mindset. And I wanted to bring in the comparative mindset too, in terms of like an aspect of it, which is mentality of opposites. And this is a big problem, and it goes directly hand in hand with the comparative mindset. If you ask something, if something's not black, what color is it? Now, what's the obvious answer that comes up, right? People will all say white, yes? Something's not black, what color is it? They all say white. And you say, well, why couldn't it be blue or yellow or green or purple or red? Why is it automatically the opposite? And beside which, black and white aren't even colors, right? Technically, they aren't colors. So white is all the things together, and black is the absence of color. So technically, they aren't even colors, right? So sorry, Rachel, we have to give you the buzzer. But that's the point. I thank you for your answer, Rachel. I think you're giving that obvious answer. But that's the thing with the mentality of opposites. We tend to think this way, and we don't realize that there are other alternatives. But the problem comes in because we are habituated to thinking in opposites in this duality. If I see something that's, wow, I see something wonderful, like this wonderful person that I'm seeing, right? Rachel. If I see somebody that's wonderful and I say, wow, they're really different to me. Oh, they're like kind of very different to me. Well, if they're wonderful, mentality of opposites, what does that make me? That makes me crap because, well, they're so different to me. You see the problem here? And this is where racism comes from. You see people, okay, in literally in the black-white thing. If you see somebody the opposite color to you, well, they're the opposite. Well, if I'm good, well, then they have to be bad because they're opposite. There's no beating here. No beating allowed, Rachel. Anyway, but you helped to make the point, Rachel. So you are being very helpful. So thank you very much. But that thing of this mindset of opposites and to default to it, and then you bring in the comparative. Well, if somebody's the opposite color of me and I'm good, that means automatically they have to be bad. And that's where racism comes from, or tribalism, all of this nonsense. It's from this same underlying mindset that if something isn't good, then it has to be bad, which is absolute ridiculous rubbish. Exactly. We can say be different and we can celebrate difference. And that's really magical. Did we lose you, sir? Think so. I guess Deceit. Yep, exactly. Bullying, yes, exactly, sure. So I hope you come back, sure. So yeah, so this thing of the comparison mindset, it's really powerful, and it's a very big deal. So another aspect of this comparison and hierarchy in terms of conventionality, it goes into this. I'm going to read a little bit from this and get into this. So when we look at the hierarchical and comparative mindset, we also see how utterly dependent they are on convention. They're slaves to should. So terrified are they of the perceived negative consequences of disapproval. So completely do they buy into the idea personal value can only be found through superiority and dominance that they believe the system they're in is the only option. This translates into these mindsets being extremely conventional. They seek to maintain and cling to the status quo because it's familiar. They know how to deal with hierarchy. They know pecking. They know dominance. They know superiority. They know bullshit. Anything they don't know is threatening. The unknown is where they have no competence, no skill, no ability, and thus no power. Already they're substantially insecure in the known. The unknown is exponentially worse. One can't possibly dominate and be higher in area where one doesn't know. This is why change, innovation, learning and growth, thinking, science, anything which threatens the stability of the status quo and established convention is feared and disliked intensely and energetically resisted. And that's a big point here, in terms of when we see people out there in the world, especially in today's world. And yes, we see this here in Facebook, sure. I see you here in Facebook. I see. All right. No problem, sure. No problem. I mean, I enjoy when we together with the discussions, but it takes a little while to get into the discussion. So no worries, sure. Please come back and join if you want. It's all good. Either way, I don't mean to ignore you on the thing. So this point that we're making here about the discomfort with newness and with expansion and with growth and with all the stuff. We see it in today's world somewhat in the polarization between the extreme conservative, keep things the same mindset, which fears change, and those that are a little bit more liberal and progressive because of exactly this. It's that fear and the attachment to the superiority and hierarchy and the known, and okay, I can't possibly be in any way. If there's the unknown, then where am I going to fit in the hierarchy and the pecking order? It's because their lives are dominated by this idea. And hey, to some extent we have to look at this. It's not a us and a them thing, as Donna keeps reminding me so magically, that hey, we have to realize that we too have this because it's there in our brainstem. So we have to really make that conscious, deliberate effort to start unhooking from comparison. I am what I am. There's no better or worse. And especially when it comes to our learning and growth, to unhook from this idea of levels or, I'm in a sort of a different level and whatever. It's a little bit of comparison hierarchy. Now, yes, it is difficult in the reality of things to say, well, you know what, I've got learning to do and you've learned more. But it's not a level thing. It's just a time thing. And so, okay, hey, I'm hoping to get to learn what you've learned and I'll get there. But in some way, it's not necessarily linear. And if we look at my background behind me, all of that, it's spherical. I don't know if you see the background right now or not, but you're probably familiar with it. So that when it comes to learning and growth, we tend to think linearly. But just because somebody has learned one thing, that doesn't mean that they further along the path. They may just have jumped to this square and then, you're on the other square. It doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. If we think of them, whoever it is that we seem to perceive, they know something or they are something and they're exemplifying something or sharing something that we don't know yet, man, that's just a gift. It doesn't matter if they're further along or whatever. It's totally irrelevant. If I see them as coming into my life to make me aware of something that I need to learn, well, it's just a gift from the universe. And if I think of it that way, now I celebrate it. I say, thank you, thank you, thank you for being the gift. Who knows what they still have to learn? Only them. I don't care. It doesn't make any difference to me. Even if they've learned everything, well, what a marvelous gift in my life. Now I have somebody I can learn everything from. Of course, I haven't yet met that, but I hope I do. I really do. I truly do. So, this is something that's very powerful, this ability to celebrate different and to celebrate everybody as a gift, even those that are stuck in this mindset, because they're a gift of making us aware of what we don't want to be. Combined gifts create a strong community. Yes, exactly. And when we are celebrating and focusing on our learning, right? That's the magic. So, man, the fact that we're always learning together. I don't care if I'm the one that has everything to learn and everybody I'm learning from everybody else. Man, how fantastic is that? If I'm the one that every single person around me knows more and has learned more, has applied more, and wow, I've got this totally now. It's just I've got learning coming out of my ears. Now, in the same token, if I'm in a situation the opposite, where I'm the one who's okay, that's now I've got a different responsibility on me. But now my learning can be one of sharing what I know, explaining what I know. That takes a lot more work. It's not nearly as fun as being the one that's have the stuff coming at you. But okay, we do what we do, and the learning is different. But here's the point, though: neither of those two I've found ever actually exist in reality. And those of you, and I know there are some here who've been actual school teachers of young children, know this, that you are always learning from the kids. And you think, well, what the hell are you going to learn from kids? They don't know, especially really young kids. But that's not the point. We always learn. It doesn't matter. There's nobody that we don't learn from. So those situations that I explained, the extremes, they don't actually exist, because the learning's always two-way. Exactly. A gift is a gift. Share them. Exactly. And the fact that the way we learn, all right, let's say I know something and somebody comes and they're asking me, all right, like about this, and they want to understand what it is that I know I'm trying to share at some point, right? And they share. Now I see how they learn. I see how they come at it. I see their perspective of learning. I learn from how they learn. That's a profound thing. That's really, really, really awesome and magical. It's really something special. So it's very cool, very cool. So we always learn, doesn't matter what. And when we share everybody as a gift, yes, it's just magical and awesome. It's just really special. The life of a fool is a foolish business indeed. And that's good to remind us that, relative to the universe, we're always fools. Being aware of and understanding the comparative mindset and hierarchy are essential for understanding bullshit. If we look around ourselves at our own lives and interactions, we often see the mechanisms in play to various degrees. How much we subscribe to them defines us and reveals us. What's really of value? Being better or being good? A question we need to ask. Need to understand, need to hold in awareness, as the difference is profound. Yeah, so I'll read that again. What's really of value? Being better or being good? A question we need to ask, need to understand, need to hold in awareness, as the difference is profound. And when it comes to being good, there's absolutely no hierarchy. Exactly. That's the point that we're making, that we're all fools. Right. Exactly. So yeah, fools without wisdom can be dangerous. And also fools that believe that what they believe is wisdom. That's even worse. But when we start to celebrate ourselves and we realize that, hey, we're all flicking nincompoops and we just have to trust and celebrate goodness, that's the key. Because really, there is no hierarchy when it comes to goodness. It's not how much you know, it's whether you're good. If you're good, you're good. That's it. That's all there is to it. All right, you may be stupid sometimes, you may do cockeyed things sometimes, you may fall into immersion bubble sometimes. Hello, Christine. Brilliant. Fantastic. Very happy to see you here. Excellent. I'm very happy. Brilliant. Jumping in. So we've been talking about just a little recap and what I want to practice here is something that in our groups, it's a very powerful technique. When somebody joins halfway through, just stop, do a little recap, do a little reassessment, because it's always powerful. So we're talking about the chapter that we're reading. It's chapter 7, which is hierarchy and comparison. So it's the comparative mindset, which is always looking at being relatively better, not absolutely good. Right, exactly. Intent to goodness is huge. Exactly. I'm going to come back to that in a second. I just want to catch Christine up. So this is the whole conversation we're talking about is a comparative mindset and hierarchy, and this idea that I just need to be relatively better and then I'm okay. So the idea there, the underlying mindset, it is actually to distort reality through comparison. So you know inside yourself, well, I got a lot to learn and I got a lot of things to do and I take shortcuts and I'm not always honest, I don't have integrity, blah blah blah. But I'm just the guy that I'm comparing myself to, who's now lower in the hierarchy. Well, they like outright like criminal and flat about. They worse than I am, which makes me okay. No, it doesn't, because they're worse people than you. Doesn't make you okay. No. So goodness has an absolute standard. It's not a relative thing, right? And when you get to be goodness, like Mary says, intent to goodness, when we understand that we have an intent to goodness and we wish to fulfill that intent to goodness. When we see that, and now I say, okay, Mary and Christine, Sher, Rachel, Donna, all of you have that same intent to goodness. What's the difference? You all have that same intent to goodness. There is no comparison. That to me puts us all in the same. And I celebrate it. How we apply that in our different ways, in our different paths, we learn, okay, we try to be good and it doesn't work out and we make mistakes, we fall into immersion bubbles, doesn't matter. For me, it's all the same, because you all have that intent to goodness. Well, we all actually have that intent to goodness. Every single person. Some get it profoundly corrupted by misbeliefs, such as the misbelief in hierarchy. And it's kind of sad in a way, but hey, that's how life is. We've got to learn for ourselves, because who knows how. I don't necessarily believe in hierarchy. I'm sorry, in reincarnation, because it's unproven, but it's a valuable idea and a concept. Or at least it's unproven to me. But it's useful for things. So again, we don't know how many the lifetimes or whatever. You may just have evolved from being a mosquito where there's hierarchy in mosquito society or whatever. I'm just saying, for argument's sake. So you come into this world and now you've had this was your only way of being. Let's say you grew up as a chicken all your life. You've been living and you've kind of realized, oh, I want to not live in hierarchy, but it's still in you. So you have to learn to undo it. So who knows? So I don't know. I kind of have compassion for people that get stuck in this, because I really do see, even in the worst possible people, you find that there's an intent to goodness. It's just supremely misapplied so often. So anyway, but that's just me. So that's what we're talking about, Christine, just to catch you up here somewhat. And I'll read this last part again, because it pretty much sums up the whole thing. And it's really a big point. What's really of value? Being better or being good? A question we need to ask, need to understand, need to hold in awareness, as the difference is profound. There's a huge, huge difference between being better and being good. So massive, massive, massive. And just being good, that's enough. That's all you need to do. Just be good in your own way. You don't have to go out and do good and be a do-gooder. You don't have to. No, just be good within yourself. A sure sign of a fool is when they discount something that falls outside of your own experience of being impossible. Lol, like dancing to metal music. There you go. See? We can extend ourselves, yes. Being open to experience and open to newness is really huge. It's really, really huge. All right. Distorted beliefs and delusions. And this little cartoon here. He's applying for the king of the jungle position. Says he has ruled the last 3 jungles he has lived in. Commands respect, gets the job done, and is ruthless when needed. I kind of like him. Huh. Very subtle little joke there, in terms of queuing as well, comes into that. And to get to our distorted self-belief. This is very powerful. Distorted self-belief, which is what the little joke is about. And it's a subtle layer joke, because there's a queuing involved, that this distorted self-belief can sometimes get others to sign off on that, like this one line here now, to sign off on that, and of course, well, it's a monkey that is supposed to be the king of the jungle, but it's all just implication, so they can sometimes create this false reality. So the quote here is, to have someone on the world stage in our face like this is truly a blessing. How awesome to see this in action. As a mirror of it does seem to be having good side consequences in terms of awakening to BS. So The bullshit in question, so prominent on TV and social media, is indeed a gift of awareness, an exemplification of that myth of personal belief. All you need is to believe in yourself. No, it's movie bullshit. Clearly, one needs more. This myth is a particularly devastating one, enabling all sorts of gross incompetence and inappropriateness, and especially promoting severe overestimation of self to dangerous levels. I don't care how much you may believe you can do brain surgery, you won't be testing your theory on me. It's absurd, of course, in any field other than, it seems, in politics. So all you need is to believe in yourself. No, it's not. The problem here is that misleading all you need, a recurring theme of many movies and a huge measure of their popularity. Also, a source of fodder for much bullshit via distortion. These movies take the common man and show how he too could be a hero, enabling the bullshitter's myth that no talent, no skills, no ability, etc., can be morphed into huge success simply by virtue of the magic of self-belief. So, so yeah, we're going in a little bit, and I'm going to get into a movie, and I don't mean to pick on Sylvester Stallone, but he happened to make movies in that sense. It's really interesting to see this, but I just want to clarify this a little bit here to not make the mistake. Self-belief is necessary. It's the all part. The all needs to translate into us actually making an effort to learn and to grow. It's not just the belief itself that makes a difference. And this is the distinction that we're drawing here now. So, yes, to believe that you can learn, that you can grow, this is where the belief needs to be applied. Not just to believe in yourself, to believe in your ability to learn and grow. That is necessary, yes, because otherwise you'd never get started. But it's so, in other words, that belief in yourself has become somewhat distorted, right? So when it comes to, in this application, to just essentially believe in yourself, oh, I've got it all, I don't need to do anything. That's like what belief in yourself has come to mean. And it's very false, and it's very debilitating also, because people believe and they go, and like this case with, okay, brain surgery, they're not always in a position where they can do brain surgery, but they end up in situations very similar where there is actual real learning needed, but they just, well, I believe in myself, I'll go and do it. And then they cause havoc. Exactly, sure. Without application, it's all meaningless. Precisely. Precisely. Absolutely. All right. But of course, even in the movies, and so Stallone's movies come to mind here, the characters do acquire skills and do make huge efforts. This is conveniently not focused on too much by the lazy and incompetent and by bullshitters who are so adamantly desirous of a shortcut to the greatness they believe is their due. The simply believe in yourself theme is another shortcut misbelief contorted by bullshit. So misbeliefs are really powerful. And this comes into this. We're going to this in a little bit more because there's a lot to this, but the misbeliefs is a very, very profound deal, and they can be very distorting, especially when we realize that our intelligence, our emotions, everything we are, pretty much serves our beliefs, and that's huge. And then when you see, oh my God, what happens if I have a misbelief? Crap. All my goodness, all my sensibility, all my intelligence, everything that I do, all my efforts now get just to that misbelief. And now I end up in this bubble doing what I think is good and right because, well, I believe in my belief. And if I believe it, it must be good. And this is something really profound. So when we really examine people that get kind of severely distorted because of a misbelief, it's a profound wake-up call to really, really, really carefully look at what it is that we believe, what it is that we are, our entirety of our doings, our application, what it's serving. So we have to really be careful in that and take very great care in that. Exactly. Independence of being and genuine effort to learn. They are really profound. And one of the things that gets us to independence of being is to be sure that our beliefs are ours. That's the real key there. Because if it's not, then there's no way you're going to have independence of being if your beliefs aren't truly yours and if they don't correspond to your inner ethics, your inner integrity, your inner impeccability. And that really is what impeccability means. It's a best use of your energy, yes, but it's doing what's right according to you, Not right according to some abstract idea of rightness or right to others, but no, according to what satisfies your inner deep conscience. And this is important. If you have that resonance in your body, in the entirety of you, that what I'm doing is right, yes, it sometimes can be based on a misbelief, but if it really is, and you're very honest, there's always that bit of offness when there's a misbelief. But when you truly in that situation where you're doing what's right for you, you have no qualms, you have no scruples, you've thought it through, it's right in the overall, hey, then you're in a situation. Now, it may turn out that this turns out to be a mistake. Doesn't matter. It will inevitably be a fortuitous mistake. And in some way, the universe makes whatever you did turn out good. So we have to understand that also. But when we get to that point of impeccability where you have no qualms about what you're doing, you are fully, totally behind what you do, life becomes a whole different deal and becomes empowered and very powerful. It's really huge. Uh, shortcuts based on nothing but shortcuts to nowhere. All right, so I'm actually going to not go into the whole movie. It's quite interesting. If you guys want to read this at some point, that's fine. One movie which really exemplifies this myth of the self-belief myth, is the over-the-top movie of the arm wrestling movie. It's quite interesting, and we get into it a little bit here in detail. But I think that, we sort of enough on this point already. Uh, yeah, Christina's saying, it's like wearing someone else's skin and life, making sure our beliefs are ours is difficult, though. Yes, it is difficult. It is difficult. And it's a really profound deal when we look at those beliefs. So, if we can still learn from mistakes, exactly. But there's a magic with these mistakes, Mary, that when it comes to impeccability, and this is something that, yes, I try to share things which aren't belief based, and in this particular sharing, you just kind of have to go out and test it for yourself, and then to see it, right? So in the beginning, maybe you have to kind of believe without believing, take it just on under advisement, and say, okay, I'm going to go and test it. So take something and go out into the world and say, all right, I'm going to make an act on my what really be impeccable and do something that's impeccable. You sort it out. You're diligent. You're thorough. You're scrupulous. Your conscience is clear. You've done all your homework, and now you go and you do whatever it is. Now I'm assuming you could, in some instance, perhaps think back in your life to situations where you've done that, where, all right, you may not have thought it in terms of impeccability, but something that you were fully confident was the right thing to do. And it was right according to you. You had no doubts, nothing. And it turned out to be a big mess. Okay. Now, typically people say, oh, it's a big mistake and it was a big screw up. And they get so immersed in that bubble that they don't see what could have come from it. But if you didn't get immersed in feeling bad and guilty and all of this stuff, and you were open and say, well, okay, I did what I did and I did my best. I'm sorry it didn't work out, but that's just the way it is. And you don't feel bad about it and you don't feel guilty. And you say, well, what can I do? I did my best. That's just the way it is. And then you stayed open. Now, if you think back, what came after? And how did things work out from that? Inevitably, and I've done this with many people, and I've really gone back to that time and said, what happened next? How did things work out? What else was going on? Inevitably, it turned out that there a greater or more or some goodness came out of it that they would not have happened if it hadn't been for that mistake. It was kind of a necessary mistake in a way. And we call them fortuitous mistakes. It is the most incredible, magical thing. And it's really, really profound. So when we think of that and we've experienced that, we start to realize that all I need to do is impeccable and be impeccable. And then after that, I just have to trust. And that's where the capital T, trust, comes in. That trust that things will work out, regardless of whether they may seem like a mistake or not. Because sometimes things need to not be the way we want them to be. Because think of it this way. So learning, right, by itself, learning and growth, that's what we're all about. And learning and growth, that's our big thing. That's really where it's at, because we want to learn and grow, which is raising and developing and expanding our awareness, because the more aware we are, the more we can integrate with life, the more we can enjoy, the more we can feel, the more we understand, and the less vulnerable we are to just all the nonsense in the world, etc., etc. So the learning and growth is all about our awareness. This is how it all makes sense. But here's the thing, though. Learning and growth, by definition, it's connecting to what you don't know. Yeah? So how do we get to where if I say I want to learn and grow, and I look around me, I say, wow, everything I see, I kind of know, right? So how do I get to learn what I don't know I need, what I'm unaware of that I need? How do I get there? By definition, I have to find some way into the unknown. But if everything I look around, I don't see the unknown around me, it's all known. This is where the mistakes come in. They create that situation where now it automatically puts you into the space of learning that you couldn't get by yourself. Because we can't deliberately and consciously make a mistake. That would be weird too. So those fortuitous mistakes, it's like the universe saying, hey, here you go. You're in a situation that's new, that's unknown, that's different. And here's the stuff that you didn't know you needed to know. And exactly, you get to that always more. Forget what you learned to see and see it as it is. There you go. Very powerful. Very powerful. Yeah. Yeah. Life does give us gifts, and one of those gifts is fortuitous mistakes. When we're impeccable, we get the most profound gifts that come out through that learning. It's really, really exciting that it puts us in a space that I never would have thought that if I'd made that mistake deliberately, I never would have thought fantastic good would come out of it. Never would have thought so. So this is really something profound, and this brings us back to that. We're all fools in some way. I prefer the word nincompoop. So we have to pay attention and say, hey, we're perpetual nincompoops, and our nincompoopery is sometimes very valuable. Why? Because it does exactly this. It brings us to that space. And so we can celebrate our nincompoopery and enjoy it and learn from it. And, always know that it's going together. When we're impeccable, and we can be impeccable nincompoops, we really get to someplace special. And it's very exciting. And we learn from these fortuitous mistakes. So, all right. So I'm going to just kind of skip through this chapter a little bit here and just pick on the spots. And one of the things that's pushed in a lot of the just for popularity's sake is this anti-smarts, right? And so the quote here is, an acute awareness of our own nincompoopery is a critical ingredient for self-development. So yeah, nincompoopery comes right into it. I love that word, nincompoopery. It gives me lots of joy. But again, one of the things is that people don't want to accept their nincompoopery. It's a critical ingredient for self-development, because if you think you know everything, well, of course, you're not going to learn. But we have to realize, and it keeps us humble, that nincompoopery, right? But it also keeps us alive. It keeps us fresh. It keeps us innocent. So it's really excellent. But we have to be very careful to fall into this trap of being anti-smarts, because a lot of people, through that comparative mindset, they say, well, I'm not smart, and therefore, but they realize and they feel like they're not smart, so they tend to pull down smarts because it makes them feel better by comparison. And that's a really terrible trap. So what if somebody else is smarter than me? Good. That's fantastic. I really hope there are people that are smarter than me, because I struggle to figure things out. So if they're smarter people, good. You can figure it out and I can learn from that. Thank you very much. So I celebrate that difference. It's very necessary in the world. So again, this anti-smarts, it just satisfies your petty local ego and doesn't get you anywhere. Very powerful point. Myths of convenience. Credo of the narcissist. If I want it, it's right. Man, that's really powerful. This is something that a lot of people do. They justify things as being right simply because they want it. It's one of those peculiar beliefs that we're looking at, that we have to really pay attention to. That's a really profound misbelief. Know-it-alls are stuck in hierarchy. Yes, exactly. That's their whole point. They're so afraid of being a nincompoop that they think being a nincompoop is going to put you at the bottom of the hierarchy pile. And that's their whole fear. And they can't get out of this because of this belief in hierarchy. That's this profound misbelief that just distorts their entire lives. And they just end up in all of this mess because of this myth that hierarchy is necessary and it's predominant. They can't get out of that primitive brain. It's kind of sad, but hey, you got to learn, and we all learn. We've all been in that situation where we got stuck in profound misbeliefs. So very powerful. Validations. Achieving a bullshit goal cannot result in satisfaction. Kind of says it all right there. And this is another one of these profound myths that are misbeliefs, that achieving your bullshit goals is going to get, no, it doesn't. It's just never going to really work. So If I have the belief that I can do it, I shall surely acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have it at the beginning. Mahatma Gandhi. So that was the point about the belief in yourself. Believe that you can do it, not that you don't need to do anything and that you are enough just as you are. Believe that you can do it, and then you'll acquire the capacity to do it, even if I may not have it at the beginning. I love this. It's just really awesome. Really cool. Looking good. Yeah, looking good is everything to some people. So I don't even want to go into that. It's not how they look or what they say, it's what they do. Promises mean nothing until delivered. All right? So again, without application, it's all meaningless. So we got another cartoon here. Let's see what this says. Bill had taken his bullshit to new levels over the last 12 months, basing every decision and every action on the main character, Ace McStrong, from the movie King of the Boardroom. Bill's world fell apart with the surprise release of King of the Boardroom 2, the complete ruin and disgrace of Ace McStrong. Through his tears, he pondered which fake character he could be next. Sorry, I forgot about this joke. When, it's just striking me as very funny. I hope it's not just me, but oh well. I see people base their lives on other people's ideas and myths and movie characters, but they don't think that the sequel could be the exact opposite. So I don't know. It's not an excellent strategy. So we get to the stupid winning. Another overlooked aspect of movie logic the bullshitter distorts to support their bullshit is heroes of this type. Hang on. Is heroes of this type do stupid things in these movies, but somehow the movie makes it all good. Despite the foolishness of the hero, he comes out on top. The bullshitter clings to this myth with all their worth because they've given up on real personal development and learning long ago, and that's severely limited. So in this particular movie, the hero his son is being like his I think it's his father-in-law has taken the son, and it's in this big mansion, and he's the lowly truck driver. And anyway, because he's been stupid and he's done stupid things, and now he goes to rescue his son from the father-in-law, and he breaks down the gates, drives his truck into the fountain, and the big heroic, looking good entrance, and he goes and he grabs the son and everything. In real life, all that's going to happen is the police are going to come and throw you in jail, and then you're definitely not going to connect with your son. But of course, in the movie, they distort this nonsense of this incredible stupidity to work out somehow magically. But then people believe you can do stupid things. And I see this so often where people try and emulate this kind of movie logic, and they do these idiotic, stupid things. And of course, in real life, it never works. So this is the stupid winning thing too. But if we go a little deeper into stupid winning, we get to this one character in this big, massive guy, it's a movie about arm wrestlers. I drive trucks, break arms, and arm wrestle. It's what I love to do. It's what I do best. Being number one is everything. There's no second place. Second sucks. Well, if you're going around breaking arms and that's your idea of winning, well, sorry, but your winning sucks, and it's a stupid winning. And that's the point with stupid winning. It's all about the idea of winning, not how you get there, not what happens with your winning, and not the results and consequence. No, it's just winning. And whatever you do justifies winning. So everything becomes game and that. And that's just a ridiculous way to live. And it's profoundly distorting. So, as long as you win, everything is okay. And that's stupid winning. It's really profoundly idiotic. There's another side to winning that people forget, and something for me personal. It's like, hey, if I'm winning, I'm making somebody else a loser. I don't particularly enjoy making others feel like a loser. So in that win-lose thing, it loses lots of its appeal when you think of, well, what are you doing to others? So this winning is everything. It's, yeah. And learning is winning. I would say it the other way around. Yes, exactly, Mary. Right. Yeah. Learning is winning. If you want to be connected to winning, and this is part of your mindset, fine. Switch it around and say learning is winning. Yes, I agree. And then that's, to me, whenever I participated in competitive things, I personally don't care whether I win or lose. It really doesn't matter. I would rather, always, not even rather, my ideal was to have competition where I would learn. That was the objective. So if I have a close match and yes, I lose, I've learned, man, and I was pushed beyond my boundaries and I had to kind of step up to keep up with somebody who was, they in that particular thing, whatever, let's say we were playing racquetball or something, that they're much better and I managed to raise my game to kind of keep up with them. Fantastic. I'm learning and growing. That I enjoyed every single time and I could do it over and over and again. And it doesn't matter that they kept learning and were kept, being way more skillful than me. I didn't care. I'm always learning and growing. Rather than playing where I beat somebody easily. Crap. That's just, it's no fun at all. There's no point in that. So, when you think of that the learning is the winning part, yes, very, very profound. It's a common mindset in business, but we can make a difference and look for a win-win acceptance. Exactly, exactly. And when we look for win-win, man, what a world we live in. And this is capital D diplomacy. This is when we are truly impeccable. And when we have ethics, how can, and we started our conversation talking about ethics and how ethics is so profound. And it was an open letter I had written to Mark Zuckerberg about making ethics first in a corporation. And when we do that, if we have ethics as our underlying things, which is, in other words, ethics is just the outflow of impeccability, and it's why the whole way of impeccability is so potent. How can I possibly make a business deal which has not got some kind of value for the other party? That would be unethical. Right? And just having a win-win is good business. Yes, I might get a one-sided, lopsided arrangement and a contract, but that'll only happen once. The next time, say, I don't want to do business with this guy. It's all his way, and it's just one-sided. There's nothing in it for me. So you end up not being longer term. It doesn't work. But when we have win-win, your customers, your suppliers, everybody keeps coming back because it's win-win. Everybody benefits. And this is the difference between competition and collaboration. Yes, competition has one powerful thing, and even cooperation. But when we start to collaborate, win-win is the mindset when it comes to collaboration. Cooperation, not necessarily, because you can have a dictatorship and everybody's cooperating because you're following orders, and okay, it doesn't necessarily lead to the magic of win-win. You can cooperate in many ways in business, but when you collaborate, now you get a more that's greater than the sum of the parts. 1 + 1 + 1 + 1 equal more every single time. So when we get into this mindset of win-win, which is a collaborative mindset, and it's an ethical mindset, it's an impeccability mindset, we end up getting more for everybody. How awesome is that? It's unbelievably awesome. It's just incredible. The inordinate belief that winning is everything causes a distorting immersion of perspective. Yes. And there goes all your ethics and your morals and your sensibility, and everything gets lost in that profound misbelief of winning is everything. It is so incredibly distorting. It's unbelievable. The indoctrination that winning is the only option leads to much self-bullshit, all to substantiate and justify a lack of integrity. Yes. So this idea of winning is everything and it's the only option, it's just a way to justify lack of integrity. And it's just a shortcut bullshit nonsense. So psychology, know others to know yourself. When it comes to knowing the psychology of others, we can know what's going on inside through various means, which of course doesn't include being inside another's head. We can gather much from observing behavior, from inference, extrapolation, implication, and such tools. Yes, one might argue, but how can you ever know for certain you're correct? One cannot with absolute certainty, and this applies to everything. But when we can predict with a high degree of accuracy the behaviors of others, we have a measure of confidence in our psychological assessment. Our aim when it comes to bullshit is to be able to know bullshit well enough to be able to predict bullshitters, allowing us to be ahead of the game. And not only that, but when we truly understand this distortion of psychology, which is bullshit, it also gets us to see where we do it in ourselves without even being aware of it. So through seeing it out externally, it gives us that perspective shift. And when we become really skilled at seeing it, we get to see it where it's still in ourselves. And that's really huge. Now, we don't mean it to be there, but it's come to be there just by default. We just started off with it. We grew up with it. We've assimilated it. We don't even realize it's there. And so, man, I didn't realize that I had this winning mindset, for instance. Oh my goodness, what did I do in the name of winning? Oh, I've done stupid things in the name of winning. Right. Oh, I realize this now. But you see my point? So I thought I was being good, but I was always taught that winning is everything and that's the only option. So, so you can have this profound self-awareness. I'm just saying, for argument's sake. So, but when we see it externally, it allows us to see what's going on inside us. It's very, very powerful. So another point here that's really a big point, wanting to transcend others is an ambition that's oxymoronic. You don't transcend others, you transcend yourself. Relative improvement doesn't necessarily mean actual improvement. And this is a huge point, especially in the point of self-growth and spirituality. We can't say, they're more spiritual than me or I'm less spiritual. What difference does it make? It's being spiritual that's important. It's not about being more or less ethical. It's about being ethical. It's not about being more or less impeccable. It's about being impeccable. There is no more or less. It's about being the thing itself. So it doesn't mean that, I'm slightly less dishonest than you. How does that help you? You're still dishonest. You're just less dishonest. You're still dishonest. So relative improvement doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. If you start comparing ourselves to others, we get lost in this nonsense. So it's very powerful, very, very powerful. In all psychology, there's a kind of logic at play, one determined by the immersive context, the logic which applies only inside the limited bubble of awareness. Once this is understood, figuring out the psychologies of others is really not that difficult, including that of the bullshitter. Combine all of this with a thorough understanding of cause and effect, especially as it applies to motivation, goal, intent, beliefs, especially beliefs, then it becomes a relatively straightforward business to know another's psychology. It seems tricky, but not really. Naturally, all assumptions are and stay assumptions until verified through observable behavior. So really, this is the point of paying attention to the intent of others. If we understand somebody's intent, we really get to know them really quickly. And take all of you here that are commenting, right? I don't know who's participating that isn't commenting, but I would pretty much say if you're here, then this applies. I'm going to read your comment in a moment, Rachel and Mary. But everyone here, and I know you guys already, right? All of you, I know your intent, right? And I will say it. Yes, I know I can't say it as 100%, but I feel it and believe it as if it's 100%. Your intent is that intent to goodness. That's the intent, to be good, to learn, to grow, to learn to be more good, to learn to apply good, to learn to share good. So it's always this intent to goodness. Yes, how we always apply that, sometimes we can have an inappropriate application of goodness, but that's how we learn. Doesn't matter. So we learn to be more aware, we learn to be more discerning. But your intent is goodness. That's it. There's no doubt to me that's what makes your intent goodness. So now it becomes very easy for me to know you. Yeah, what kind of music you like and what movies you watch, what difference does that make? Makes no difference whatsoever. You might like the same movies as a serial killer. It tells me nothing about you. But your intent, that intent to goodness, your intent to learn, tells me everything about you, and that's all I need to know. I don't need to know anymore. It's awesome to me. That's magical to me. That's wonderful to me. And also, when we really see that, we see the moreness of people. We see, man, wow, look how much more there is to them when it comes to how they're applying and how they're learning. Then we start to fill in all the details and we just see the magic. It's just fantastic. Rachel says, people who try to victimize others were once a victim and got caught up with victimization. However, those who know the term playing the victim know that you're only one if you allow yourself to be one. If you will, I don't lose, I only win or I learn. If you will, I don't lose, I only win or learn. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, right. So yeah, that you're only one. You're only a victim if you allow yourself to be a victim. And also, goes to a more subtle point too, that victims invite aggression. They cue it. So you create the thing by feeling a victim and believing you're a victim and having a self-perception of being a victim. You actually create the very thing that you don't want. It's really profound. So our beliefs are really huge. It's really, really huge. And it doesn't have to just be a victim. It could be I'm unlovable. You're going to create that because you're going to cue it in other people. Oh, you believe you're unlovable? Well, I'm going to give you what you want. That's how you want to be. Okay, I'll give it. They don't think it consciously and directly, but that's kind of how we do. We automatically give people what they want. If that's how you want to be perceived, fine. I'll treat you the way you want to be treated. Okay, you know. So it's very subtle and it's very complex, and we don't do this consciously, but we try and fulfill others' beliefs about themselves because that's what's important to them. So we end up even treating them in ways that we wouldn't ordinarily do, maybe. But so we don't do it consciously sometimes. There's something to be very aware of, this thing of inadvertent cueing and how we respond to it. But yeah, it's very powerful. Like if we think of ourselves as a victim or think of ourselves as unlovable or whatever the thing is, we have to change those and deal with them. Mary says, pause, stand back, and look at various perspectives before making any decisions. Yes, that's so huge, so huge. Exactly. In the end, it's goodness. That's all there is to it. Exactly. And we got to celebrate our own goodness. This is something that to me is a huge deal. If I truly could do something in the world, if I had a superpower, and said, okay, I get to choose, it is for earnest, good people like all of you to celebrate your goodness, to enjoy your goodness, to know that you are good, and to feel good about being good. That's it. That earnest goodness, and to unhook from false humility and false modesty. I'm not saying go and be egotistical. Of course not. And that's the problem with good people. They are so afraid of being egotistical that they overdo being humble and modest, and they don't celebrate and enjoy their goodness. But when we realize that, hey, just because my goodness isn't always perfectly applied doesn't mean I'm not good. Yes, at root, at heart, I have that profound intent to goodness. Yes, I'm an nincompoop that applies it cockeyedly in many ways. So what? I still can enjoy the fact that deep in me, I am good. And I can enjoy the fact that I'm learning, that I'm trying, that I'm making an effort to be good. And okay, you know what? I make mistakes and I do stupid things. I can even celebrate those because I enjoy my nincompoopery. That's just how it is. I don't care if you guys do stupid things, whatever. So what? I enjoy it. We have fun with it. We tease each other. We can celebrate our nincompoopery. It doesn't have to be a negative. In other words, we can have a win-win when it comes to ourselves and how we see ourselves. We really can. And as earnest good people, I think this is profoundly important to not just celebrate our goodness, but to enjoy our nincompoopery. To be children, in other words. Yeah? To be deliberately be children, so to have sophistication and innocence combined, to be sophisticated in deliberately maintaining our innocence, to get back to the joy of learning. And hey, as kids, we screwed up and made mistakes all the time as kids, pretty much everything. Did we care? No. Oh, I learned, and you just move on. And it was never a problem. We didn't even think it was a mistake. We just, well, that didn't work. Oh, okay, and you just went on. That's where I wish to get to, where it's never about mistakes and feeling bad. No, it's always just learning. Did you ever make a mistake intentionally? Anyone here? Please tell me if somebody did. I want to hear. And please say no if you didn't. I mean, I'm keen to see it actually there, because it's like an act of intent to say no. Did you make a mistake intentionally ever? Anybody? No one? It might take a little while for the comments to come through. There's a bit of a delay between what I say and the comments here. So I'm keen to see your responses on that. It's very powerful. It's very powerful. Very powerful realization. Nope, exactly. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Erica. No, thank you. It's nice to see you here, Erica. Brilliant. No, never intentionally. Never yes, kind of yes, maybe, Rachel. But at the time, You may have a distortion of emotion and a real pressure on you. And at the time you felt it was necessary to do whatever it was. So it's never truly in the fullness of yourself, that it wasn't never ever intentional in that sense. Yes, we might have believed it to be so at the time, but when you look back, not really. So we need to celebrate ourselves and say, hey, we're nincompoops, we're going to make mistakes. So what? I'm never going to intentionally do something bad. It's just not in our DNA. We can't really do it. Even if we thought it was bad locally, like, instance, somebody, like getting back at a bully. Yes, you wish them harm, but that is like in response to what they did. And, in a sense, that's like fighting back and all that. And yes, you may think that, okay, wishing them harm was bad, but in that context, it felt like the right and good thing to do because you've been so emotionally overwhelmed that you didn't know any other options. So what I'm saying, from the huge overview perspective, it's not really actually what I'm talking about. Right, exactly. Maybe when I was thinking of payback and trying to control others, exactly my same point, Christine. We do feel like sometimes we do intentional bad things, but we were in a bubble. It's not, when I say I mean your overview, your real self, not your bubble self, not that self that got caught up in feeling this, that you've been the victim, and when you were sometimes, literally that. Now we get into this mindset of how we think we should respond, right? In those cases where you were thinking of payback or trying to control others, weren't you in a bubble of thinking that's what you should do? Exactly, an eye for an eye makes the whole world go blind. Exactly. But Christine, I'm really keen to ask on this, right? When you were in that thinking of payback or trying to control others, in that time when you were there, if you go back to your mindset, whatever it was, they did something horrible, and you then were in this misbelief that you should do something to pay them back and to make things right or to control them. It was based on a misbelief of some kind of a should. Yes. So what I'm saying is that when exactly. So when we think of this and we realize that when what we think of as a should, it's a should because by implication it's a good of some kind. And that's why I always put should in inverted commas, because should is a massively corrupting, terrible thing. Yes, I was in the bubble. Exactly. Should corrupts us to do horrible things because when we think we should do it, by implication, this is the right and good thing to do, and it can be profoundly, profoundly corrupting. I was acting from my ego, yes, in a bubble, right? But your real deep self, underlying your good self, was still trying to do good in an inappropriate way, right? When we realize that we can do radically horrible things because of an inappropriate application of goodness, that concept of inappropriate application of goodness, it's huge, huge, huge. You say, oh my God, yes, how many idiotic things haven't I done because I was trying to be good in some way. Now, in this case, okay, we are taking extreme versions like payback and revenge and all that. They are real extreme distortions of inappropriate application of goodness, right? Because we think we should do it in that situation and we're in this bubble. But it can also be there's a lot of inappropriate application of goodness in charity. And the charity industry over the last couple of decades has had a profound kind of a self-realization and awareness that, hey, we are legitimately and genuinely trying to do good and help people. But actually sometimes, because they did it inappropriately, they just made the situation grossly worse. Right? And the situation that I use is like in Somalia with the warlords, where they just went and dumped all the food and said, "Yeah, you go, you guys are starving, here's food." And then the bullies came and said, "Oh, this can give me power. Let me take all of this and control it, and now I have power over everybody." And they created that warlord culture, right? Inappropriate application of goodness. It's huge. It's huge. Exactly. When we caught up, sure is a powerful point. When we are caught up in a survival mindset, it can lead to inappropriate application of goodness, particularly when we get dominated by fear. But when we switch to an evolution mindset, and especially when we go even further and we say, hey, what's the ultimate when it comes to learning and growing? Play. Haha, I want to evolve. What's the best way to learn and grow and evolve? Play. So when we switch to a play mindset, the mindset we had as children, man, we didn't care if we screwed up and made mistakes and whatever. It didn't matter. We just were learning, we were playing, we were having fun, right? Okay, some of those games sometimes they can be nasty games because they learn them. But when you really look at pure play, it's never nasty, it's negative because, well, you want everybody to have fun. That's the intent. So that becomes that win-win mindset, that collaboration mindset. But when we have that a play mindset and adopt that, then we tend to avoid the inappropriate application of goodness to a big extent. But of course, we have to be aware that awareness is the issue. So we have to apply that and learn to be more aware and have discernment so that we don't get caught up in bubbles of trying to do good and it's just a superficial thing and we don't think it through. We don't have discernment. We don't have understanding. So we want to play in the most awesome way possible. We want to play with sophistication. We want to play with awareness, with discernment, with understanding. We want to be really, really, really be experts and masters of play. Yeah? Isn't that awesome? And since dating has come up again so many times lately in so many ways, if we think of dating as play, changes the whole thing. Right, Christine? Just a massive, massive big difference. Insisting on an untruth just doesn't work. It short circuits. Yeah, yeah. So we have to insist on knowing that, hey, we can be cockeyed. I don't know. This is just an interesting little side point. And we need to understand when and why we stop playing. Yes, Christine. Yes, exactly. That's huge. That's a really, really huge point. When we realize that we've stopped playing. Why? Why did we stop playing? Why? 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 Now, I want to say something. Play can be very sophisticated. What I'm doing now in my world, in my view, in me personally, this is play. Discussion, discernment, understanding, learning, growth, interactivity, collaboration, all of what we're doing now, this is play to me. It gives me lots of joy. It makes me very happy. So different kinds of play, right? But this is play to me. This is a fantastic game we're playing. It's really magical, the game of awareness, right? It gives us power, exactly, right? And personal power, not the power of dominance and bullying, but yes, when we really know how to play, there's a power to it, exactly, right? And the game of power is a fantastic game to play because, power in a sense of your personal power is the ability to deliberately use your energy. At least that's my definition. Play is empowering. Yes, absolutely. Because play gives us the opportunity to practice using our energies. Now, when we play, in part of play, there is an automatic acceptance that you can make mistakes, that you can do it wrong, you can fiddle, you can try. You don't have to be perfect when it comes to play. This is why it's empowering. It gives us the opportunity to practice being. And that's huge. That's why this particular type of play is so huge to me. We share an understanding. I'm not quite sure. I don't really get it. Let me see if I can figure it out. I'm going to try and express what I feel. I'm not quite sure. And okay, yeah, and you stumble and we awkward and we fiddle around and we say it. It doesn't. No, that didn't come out right. Let me try it again. Let me say it again. That's play. That is play. It's exploring and testing. And through play, we practice being. And through that practice of being, of course, we get to empower ourselves and we get to take our raw energies and we get to use them deliberately. And when we can use our energies deliberately, that's exactly what power is. The ability to deliberately use your energy. That's power. And personal power. Again, we're not talking about powers and dominance nonsense like that. It's just to be empowered is mean I can use myself and all of my stuff deliberately. That's fantastic. How perfectly? There's never a perfect. So in this kind of a sense, we don't know. So we don't care. But it's just we get to that where we are actually getting application right. And play is empowering because it taps into youthful exuberance. Precisely. We remove the barriers. That's empowering. It's liberating to play life. Right? I love that. Hashtag play life. Type it for me, somebody, please, if you wouldn't mind. Hashtag play life. Just huge, just huge. A new window for learning and self growth. Yes, exactly. Youthful exuberance. Man, I don't ever let go of my youthful exuberance. That's why I think of myself as the young man in my own conception. I'll always be the young man. I don't let go of that, man. I liked it. And I had earnestness as a young man. That was my thing. Okay. We have different sort of predilections. Mine was always earnestness. I was always very earnest. And I love being earnest. It's a power for me. It really is. There we go. Hashtag play life. Yes. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. So I just a real little jump here. It comes in the chapter, and we getting into letting the chapter go us into mm, more magical areas, I would say, or maybe more spiritual areas. But this is an interesting little side point here that comes up. Mary, if you put a space in a hashtag, you're only going to get hashtag play. You see what it does? Just as a by the by there. There you go. A new Instagram hashtag. Yeah, yeah. Somehow, for whatever reason, when it comes to new relationships, 3 months seems to be the magic time limit for maintaining pretense. And this is really interesting. Also, just the 3 months, it's not just when it comes to, like, if you guys that are in corporate, you probably know if you have a new employee or a new teammate or something, and they come in and they sort of under false pretenses, and they're pushing an image or a vibe that typically tends to just last for 3 months. Well, at least this has been my experience, and Olivia's also. We saw this when we had employees once upon a time. But it also applies on the flip side when it comes to learning and change. 3 months seems to be a magical time for whatever reason. So if we are persisting in something, and either like if we're in a new relationship, pay attention to what happens after 3 months and see where things are at. Give it 3 months if you're not sure, and reassess. Also, when it comes to our own personal learning and growth, give it 3 months and see, like, especially if we are making an effort to apply new things and we don't feel like there's change, keep going for 3 months and then see where you're at. So I don't know, 3 months just seems to be, for whatever reason, it seems to, more or less 3 months, of course, because it depends how much you're doing things, if you're intense. But just in general, it just seems to be quite an interesting something. And I'm curious to hear from you guys, if 3 months, if you found this to be in this kind of context for maintaining a way of being, or for change, or if this 3 months in this context is something that makes a difference. Like if you think back to relationships like that started, what happened after 3 months, stuff like that. So this is interesting. Arrogance is a quicksand of the soul, a dead end of being. Yes. And I want to get into arrogance a little bit, but from the other side, because it's come up very profoundly. And one of the things is part of the way of impeccability. And, as we read more of this book here, this is becoming they're becoming Facebook Lives on the way of impeccability rather than on the bullshit, which is cool, which is the underlying intent of the book. It's for us to learn, not to learn to know what stuff. Yes, it is valuable to understand bullshitting and all of that, but it's more valuable, and that's the intent of the book, when we start to use it as a tool for self-awareness. But now, one of the profound things in the way of impeccability is leverage, particularly self-leverage, and leveraging our honesty and leveraging our own self-perception. And in this way, we can use arrogance, and arrogance becomes a profound, profound tool. Right, so take arrogance and impatience, as somebody here recently discovered. Right, we can leverage these two. So they were dealing with impatience. Okay, how can I deal with my impatience? I really want to learn how to be patient. So then we said, what is impatience? Isn't impatience actually the arrogant expectation of the world moving at your pace and speed? Oh my God, yes. Being so arrogant. But now, when we flip it around to say you, in terms of your self-perception as an earnest, good, sensible person, you cannot possibly be deliberately arrogant. So now that means you can't be impatient anymore. So now we are leveraging arrogance when we tie it to our honesty and our goodness to say, I can't be impatient anymore because that would be arrogant. So now we're leveraging our goodness and our self-perception to actually use arrogance arrogance as a powerful tool to not only not to be irritated, not be impatient, but also not to be irritated at nonsense, not to get annoyed, not to be angry. Because all of those, irritation, annoyance, anger, all the negative stuff, it comes from us having an expectation that the world needs to conform to our view of how it should be. And that is profoundly, profoundly arrogant. And it's a quicksand of the soul, a dead end of being. But the point I want to make here is it's not to have this fear of arrogance and not to say, oh, I'm going to just eliminate arrogance. No, it's we can say take that arrogance, that because we need to understand arrogance. And of course, all things, when you understand it, it's in you in some way. But to take it and kind of flip it around and leverage it and use it. So now we use arrogance to leverage our honesty, to leverage our integrity. How can I, if I possibly believe, if I even think I have even just a little bit of integrity, and I even have just a little bit of honesty, how can I, in all honesty, when I'm aware that being impatient is an act of arrogance, how can I possibly be impatient again? I can't, right? It's very profound. Very profound. So we can leverage these things, and the same with ego. We can use it. We can come at it from the other side, and we can leverage it. So to truly understand madness, we have to be a little bit crazy ourselves. Yes, that's sounding nincompoopy. See, we're gonna leverage it. We're gonna leverage it. Make it good for us. Oh my, you're so accurate here. Thank you for the option of shifting that perspective. I'm going to apply that as much as possible next week. Ah, brilliant, Donna. It's huge, it's huge. And all right, I'm actually going to, I want to step right out of the book here. Oftentimes we just don't want to know. In a moment, I just want to kind of scroll to the end of the chapter. Overestimation, this is very powerful. We have to be very, very cautious of overestimation of self. Because that can get us into trouble real quickly. And as good people, that's something that we want to be cautious of. However, we have to be careful of the opposite again. Now we're getting into this leveraging of opposite. Just because we have this deep fear and understanding and concern about overestimation, we have to, at the same token, understand the reverse, that if we underestimate, same thing. So we have to make allowance for the fact that, yes, we, in essence, when we are learning and growing, we are always going to be underestimating in some way or overestimating. We know we can learn, we know we can grow, and that's all. So we can't necessarily get stuck, or it's helpful to not get stuck in this idea of, oh, I'm ready for it in this sense, and to place valuations on ourselves. No, the only valuation is I can learn and I will learn. That's it. That's the rest doesn't matter. So how I evaluate myself, throw it out. It's a waste of time. I just want to get to the end of the chapter here. All right, we can skip accomplices. We don't want to be inadvertent accomplices. That's what this is talking about. Based on what? There we go. A lot of people come and they push a vibe and an attitude and all the stuff. And you just have to ask them, well, based on what? All your opinions, all you're saying, based on what? And when we ask that question, suddenly it all collapses. but we can ask ourselves that when we say, oh, you know what? I had this idea of myself that I don't know, I'm whatever. And if we say, but based on what? Oh, now that you ask me based on what, and then we say, well, actually, it's just an idea. And we just got stuck on step one. When we ask based on what, we automatically think a little deeper, and we realize sometimes we believe stuff based on absolutely bugger all. Based on nothing at all. Genius and madness are two sides of the same coin. Exactly. And it's about perspective shifting and utilizing it appropriately. That makes a difference between the two. Exactly. And also, madness, it's when you believe your beliefs when they're based on nothing. Genius says based on what? Right there is the difference between the two. That simple question of asking based on what is what lets one go to genius or to madness. Madness is when you don't ask that question and you just end up believing it. Very exciting. Very exciting. All right, because I want to talk about leveraging ourselves in a sense, wanting to believe. Yeah, very powerful. But all right. So I think this is a long chat. Here we go. All right, so I just want to leave off so we can start next time on chapter 9. But I'm getting the feeling that we're going faster and faster through this because I actually want to start reading a different book rather than. So even if we don't get to the end, it don't matter because we're already shifting. And this was to open the door to stuff, and it's useful to understand. And hey, I want to just kind of maybe even next week already to say, all right, if you want to know more, go read it yourself. If this is something that you're dealing with and you want the details, if you're actually dealing with these people. And it is useful to understand, and it leads to profound, deeper understanding. But in terms of who we're connecting with, I want to shift to the way of impeccability and to nobility and ethics and all of this stuff, our spiritual aspects, our deeper learning and all of that. So I want to start reading the Biala series book 1, the New Nobles books. I want to start reading that actually. So, but anyway, I wanted to talk about um, leveraging our honesty, especially when it comes to self-appreciation. In the same way as we leveraged our honesty with arrogance to not be negative, right? We can also leverage our honesty when it comes to self-appreciation. All right. So if I ask all of you here now, do you want to be good? Do you intend to be good? Do you want to be nice and kind and generous and thoughtful? Do you want to be noble? Do you want to have impeccability? Do you want to have integrity? Yes, 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 yes. Now, that's not a matter of some idea of yourself. That's you just being honest, right? So, right, those are honest qualities. Furthermore, if I were to put you like in the universal court of conscience and where you cannot possibly lie, you're in front of the universe or God or Krishna or Allah or whatever your point is for you personally, where you cannot possibly tell a lie. And I were to ask you, okay, I'm just going to go from here. Sure, Rachel, Christine, Donna. I can't see all the comments here now, so I can't see all the names. But I'm just saying, each one of you individually, Erica, all of you, right? What is it that is a good quality that you possess? What do you appreciate about yourselves? You have to come up with something. There's got to be something, right? So what I'm trying to say is when we shift to take our honesty and say, hey, self-appreciation is not an issue of ego, but when we have to be honest about ourselves to say, yes, there are things that are good about me. There are things that I self-appreciate as an issue of honesty. Now we've leveraged that honesty to enable us to actually self-appreciate because it's now we've shifted the association between self-appreciation and ego. We've shifted it to now self-appreciation as an act of honesty. So my point is, right, exactly, right. My point is that if we now look at self-appreciation as an act of honesty, and I said to you, wait a second here now. All right. If you do not self-appreciate yourself, wouldn't that make you a phony? I'll let the delay come in. If you do not self-appreciate yourself, because you know, honestly, if you stand in front of the universe or God or Allah or whatever, and you say, hey, you've been asked the question, what do you self-appreciate yourself? You have to say all of these things, right? So if you don't appreciate yourself, wouldn't that make you a dishonest phony? Yeah. So exactly. So this is my point for sure, which means forever afterwards, in the same way as when we look at impatience as being connected to arrogance or irritation or annoyance or anger being connected to arrogance, if we now take self-appreciation and self-enjoyment as being connected to not being a phony, for now you can't, never ever can you possibly not appreciate and love yourself anymore because that would make you a phony. Because they really, really, really actually are good things about you, right? You don't have a choice now but to self-appreciate yourself. There's no choice whatsoever. Why? Because you'd be a phony if you don't self-appreciate. How huge is this? It's really, really huge, isn't it? We are funny creatures in our psychology, how we can associate things. Exactly. Would be fake humbleness, fake humility. Exactly. Exactly. And so we have to realize, but we're so scared of being egotistical that we've associated self-appreciation with ego. and being egotistical and overestimating ourselves and all of this stuff, right? But that's the mistake right there. That's the misbelief, to only associate self-appreciation with ego. No, we can change that. We can associate self-appreciation with honesty, self-honesty. And if I'm truly self-honest, well, okay. So if somebody says to me, I'll tell you something good about yourself, I don't go squirm and say, oh, that's so difficult and I'm too modest to say. I say, okay, hey, I have earnestness. That's something that I enjoy. Or I have a skill of expression. I'm just talking about myself now. It took me a long time to be able to acknowledge that I have an ability to express things or elucidate things. It was always very difficult for me to say it, but now I'm just being honest. Well, I have it. Okay, it is there. It's no big deal. I'm just being honest. So it doesn't become this big deal. It doesn't become an ego thing because I'm also saying it as an absolute fact for me that just, well, it is what it is. There's no better or worse to it. So I'm completely unlooking it from ego, because now it just becomes a point of accuracy and honesty. And as an honest person, well, I have to be accurate. So if you ask me what my positive qualities are, well, I have to just be accurate and honest. There's no way around it. So this brings it out, and it allows us to celebrate our goodness, because celebrating our goodness, again, it's an act of profound, profound, profound self-honesty. And we're not being phony when we celebrate our goodness, right? We are being real and we are being genuine. To not celebrate your goodness, that's phony. Yeah? Kind of let that pause a little bit there. Maybe the delay is taking a little bit. Ego is over the top opinion of self, not honest self appreciation and awareness. Exactly. And as earnest, good people, unfortunately, we fall into the trap of being excruciatingly honest about all of our flaws and faults. But if we're going to be honest about our faults, we need to be honest about our good points also. And when we're really, really honest, are those faults ever intentional? No. Is our goodness intentional? Yes. Massive difference. So when you think of it that way, your flaws are faults. Okay, I'm working on them. I'm dealing with them. I'm figuring them out. I don't want to emphasize them, because emphasis also can make things into a world. We can, through emphasis, get caught in a bubble, and now our flaws and our faults are the only thing in our world, which is a distortion. Again, it's kind of dishonest in a way, not deliberately so, but by implication. So when we really shift to say, hey, I'm going to shift my emphasis. Yes, I know I have flaws and faults and I work on them, but they're not really flaws and faults. They're just lack of awareness. I don't know better, and I'm learning how to be better. So we shift the association of what we don't know as flaws and faults to stuff that I'm wanting to learn and I'm working on. And I say, hey, but at the same token, I can enjoy myself. I have goodness. I have earnestness. I have honesty. I have integrity. I have impeccability. I have appreciation. I have goodness. I have kindness. I have generosity. I have sobriety. I have grace. I have sensitivity. Oh my goodness, there's so many good qualities. Can you guys write me more good qualities that you all possibly possess? I could come up with a very, very long list. And it's actually something that I do want to do in one of our sessions one day, is to actually sit down and write a list of all of these good qualities. I have it somewhere in one of my files. Actually, I think I might even be able to pull that up here. I don't know how much you see of this. Key concepts. Let's go to the start. So, here's a whole long list of them, right? Analysis, anchoring. Some of these are more, they're not necessarily good positive qualities, but anyway, it's not about reading them specifically, just to give you an idea that they're long lists of positive qualities. And if we start to immerse in all of the powerful positive qualities, it changes our world. We start to think differently. We start to think only in those terms. And yes, we know we need to learn, but it all becomes about awareness. And then it becomes really exciting. Now we have this play of always learning. When learning becomes fun, we have the ultimate play mechanism, right? Work on the whole of me every day. Yes, absolutely. I love my flaws. They pull me together into a body of goodness. Exactly. They help us to learn and grow, and they give us perspective. So they aren't really flaws. They're just alternative perspectives. Yeah. When you look at it that way, not really a flaw, just alternative perspectives. All right. So Wizard Energy says, I'm starting to fade in and out here. Time to go. As much as I love to talk all day about stuff, when it's one way for this, it becomes difficult for me to go for too long. But since, we'll just keep to the timetable more or less. Yeah, but, in the Zoom sessions, and again, I'm going to end the Facebook Live. If everybody wants to hop onto Zoom and we can chat about this on the Zoom, uh, I'm going to leave it open, the Zoom. Well, actually, I may even start a new Zoom so that the recordings are separate. But yeah, so just let me know. Message me if you want to get on Zoom, and we'll get on Zoom. Just private message me, and then I'll give you guys all a post, and we all can get together and chat on the Zoom, because I'm really keen to actually discuss this and chat this with you guys specifically in the group setting, because with a chat like this, it's kind of a one-way thing, and it's not quite as fluid. So I'm keen to hear your takeaways and your deeper perspectives and anything. But yeah, see, Wizard Energy is saying, all right, time to go. All right. Oh, pleasure, Mary. Pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. Pleasure, pleasure, pleasure. All right, brilliant. So I'm going to end everything and end the live, stop the live stream. So, all right, I'll talk to you guys again later. All right, bye-bye. Zoom, Zoom. Yes, brilliant. All right. End meeting. End meeting.